fans, welcome to Buffalo Wild Wings, Loudon Road in Concord, nhsportspage.com with a summertime basketball talk. And we have assembled a panel of experts, championship coaches here in New Hampshire. I'm Pete Terrier, along with Dave Haley. And Dave, you're the one that came up with this brilliant idea. Hey, it's going to be hot, it's going to be 90 degrees, tornado warnings, humid temperatures. Let's talk some hoop, maybe cool everybody down a little bit. And you put together a great panel of 4 coaches covering all 4 divisions here in New Hampshire. So why don't you do the honors and intro our coaches, and then we'll talk some hoops.
I'm worried some of the best material got used on the other side of the bar over here, but no, really excited to have 4 of the best coaches in the state and 4 guys that actually are good friends of mine. So we'll start with David Wheeler, who has won 4 championships. Doc Wheeler at Manchester Central has been a part of 7 championships, coming off a 25-0 season. Lorne Lucas, head coach at Somersworth, the 2011 champions, coached in Massachusetts for a long time before that, and coming straight from the Celtics camp at about at a slow pace, trying to get through the traffic on 93. Buddy Trask from Colebrook, who has won over 500 games at Colebrook, wow. 3 championships, and it is a legend, a Hall of Famer in New Hampshire. He loves it when I call him a Hall of Famer. And Jim Mulvey, 2-time champion at Portsmouth, one of the best coaches in the state of New Hampshire. His team has been to the Final Four 6 of the last 8 years, and he is now serving as an assistant coach on the New Hampshire team that will be playing Vermont this weekend in a game that we're going to be covering. So the idea is just basically Pete and I to talk to the head coaches today and try to get an idea of their philosophies, and really Pete and I just kind of let it flow between these guys. So I don't know if you want to ask the first question or I can start, but really just want to kind of let these guys go one at a time and kind of interact with each other. It's really about hearing from the coaches and really getting into their mindset, and what they've achieved in their careers.
All right, well, let's start off by thanking our sponsors, Neighborhood Fundraising, Dave Haley, obviously, but bringing the fundraising aspects to the forefront, dealing with many of these guys, athletic directors. If you're looking to fundraise for your team, for your school, for your organization, just give Dave a shout, neighborhoodfundraising.com. You can email him, you can call him on the phone. He can help you guys raise much needed money.
We raise money with cash sales with cards, face-to-face, and also online. The kids can actually raise money through social media as well, and we've had tremendous feedback. Portsmouth, Somersworth have already used it, and so forth and so on. So absolutely, coaches watching this video, reach out to me just to get the general information. We actually have a 2-minute video on the website that walks you right through our process. So we're really excited about it, something that Doc and I worked really hard on. We hope you check that out. But yeah, really happy to sponsor this and really excited to get going.
I want to start with Buddy because I see his nice polo there, and right on the sleeve, I don't know if Jen can't see it, but it says NHIAA committee with the basketball hoop and the net logo. So I got to figure out, I mean, everybody criticizes the NHIAA. They can't do anything right as far as anybody is concerned. How much does that hurt when you hear stuff like that? Or are you trying to be, as part of this committee, trying to maybe change some of the perception and the way people kind of see the NHIAA?
Well, I mean, we do it. A lot of this stuff, the criticism comes. Of course, you're always going to get criticism about the officials that you choose. I mean, nobody likes the officials, so, there's a perception.
You must be a heck of a coach not to get criticized.
Oh, of course.
He has his guys. He has his guys.
Well, there's a rumor that I do, but it's not really true. It used to be, maybe. But, there's only so much as a committee you can do, number one. A lot of the stuff that we hear, there's not much that can be done.
Right.
And we try to choose the better officials. But sometimes, you're now getting into, there's an old guy that's getting older. We're trying to influx new people into the situation. So it's a process, And along with that, there's been interpretations about rules and how the game's being called. And probably we'll get into it right now, because the game, to me, the game should be called the same at every division. And I know the game is not called the same at every division. Because when I go to the D1 and T2 games, that's not the way 3 and 4 play, quite frankly.
Right.
And so we're trying to get it so it's an even appeal for everybody. You know, some people might like that, some people might not. But you know, and then you have your how the games are scheduled and stuff. But you are venue driven, and you've got to do these tournaments when your venues want. If we want to stay at the college venues, and I was always the proponent. I still hate the quarterfinals now being played at home sites.
And that's money? Is that money? Why they do that?
Unfortunately, it's coming to that.
Yes.
You know, because I thought, especially our kids down in 3 and 4, we used to love to get their kids the exposure at the college game.
I think that's the same with everybody.
Yeah.
You know, and now we don't get that.
Right.
You know, and then on the other hand, you're trying to balance. Okay, well, we want to get our newer officials in there. Okay, we're going to have them do a quarterfinal game, and now I'm saying, no, you want your best officials doing the home site game. If I'm a road team, if I'm a road person going in there, I want to see 2 or 3 people, you know, that I know are gonna give me a good shot to win the game. You know, so. And then, you know, the other major thing is now it's on 5 divisions versus 4. And as much as I emphasize it, because I'm on classification too, and it is an issue because there's 28 teams in Division 3. And no matter how you work around it, that's not right for it to happen. But yet, okay, how do you want to work that? I'll tell you, we talked the other night about, is Hopkins going to move down into Division 4? No. You know.
Pretty good.
To me, it's Division 1 and Division 4 for the ADs. I thought, we're happy.
Yeah.
Division 2 and Division 3, I think, somewhere along the way we need to work that out so that we can find a compromise to get that.
I think half the teams in the state are in Division 3. It feels like it.
Yeah, I mean, coming from Mass, it was great in that there's leagues. So that's been my biggest adjustment. One of my bigger adjustments coming to New Hampshire, in that basically your regular season games don't matter except for seeding. So it was great in Mass. You play in a league, and you play for a league championship, and there's rivals. So we play, say, Oyster River, and we play Portsmouth, and so and if you get thumped, you get thumped. And that's just, but once you fell back into your division, I play in the Catholic Central League, and there's Division 1, 2, 3 division teams in there, and we got thumped by St. John's Prep, we got thumped by BCI, but then when we went to the tournament, we were awfully tough at Division 3, playing all these higher seeded teams.
Yeah.
So, and then you do win some league championships. So, I think that's where I see it getting lost a little bit. I mean, I think in high school, my father's travel was 45 minutes. The JV kids would go to the game, and then the bus would come back with the cheerleaders, and then the varsity guys would go to the game, and that's how it was done down there. And it was great. We had such rivalries. And I think it's hard, to get pumped up for a Pelham game. We have nothing. We've never played them. So I think that's where it gets a little bit different.
Jim, how do you feel? I mean, you're in Division 2, where 2 Final Four teams, Pembroke and Pelham, are going in different directions. One's going Division 1, they asked to. Pelham's going down, even though Matt Regan, I know, wasn't in favor of that, but the school moves, he's got to move with him. But how do you feel about the classifications, how it works out?
Yeah, I mean, if I had my preference, I think like maybe if the enrollment was like 1,500 person for Division 2, 1,500 to 800, we could play each other home and away. 100 years ago when I played, we'd play Manchester Central at our place, we'd go to their place and play. That is how you become
great rivals.
Yeah. Great, you're saying, Portsmouth right now, we should be playing Dover, we should be playing Hampton, we should be playing Rochester. We don't need to go to Kingswood, and Kingswood don't need to see us.
Right.
And they should find teams closer to their area. And I think an enrollment of 800, and I don't have the exact numbers, to 1,500, that would be one heck of a class. And that would be what I'd prefer. I mean, I'm not happy with them 2 teams going down, because even though Pembroke beat us last year, I'd rather play them in Pelham every night than Kingswood. Yeah. And no disrespect. It's like
no.
That's where the program's at.
How does it affect Division 1? How do you feel? Like, hey, you got a couple of teams moving in and out. Bedford's moved up. Goffstown kind of in and out, but Has it affected you at all? Central's one of the bigger schools in Division I.
I really don't think it has. But if you don't mind, I'd like to address one of the questions you asked, buddy. I was asked to address the New Hampshire Officials Association this year. It was pretty neat, and from what I understand, it was the first time they got all the officials throughout the state of New Hampshire in one room. And their sole purpose is to try to get a uniformity of what they're going to call. And the real interesting thing is they ask, what from a coach's perspective, what do you want from us? And I think they're looking for like X's and O's and stuff like that. And I felt like the best message I could share with them is, I want a better attitude. Players have a really hard job performing well. Coaches have a hard time leading 13, 14, 16, 18-year-old kids. And referees have a hard time maintaining a good flow and a good positive, attitude or feel of the game. So, like, my message to them was like, we all have a difficult job, and we get some guys that show up and they're almost upset before the game starts. Like, I had a guy say, hey, hope you behave yourself.
In warm-ups?
In warm-ups, right? And I'm thinking, we're playing Trinity. We got a sold-out gym here. I could give a crap about behaving yourself. You do your job. Right? Like, and you know what? There's no minimizing it. It's difficult. So I think the referees are out there. I think they get we don't have uniformity. If you had girls coaches here, they would crush that we can't get anybody any good. We hear from guys in the lower classes, you guys send us the redheaded stepchild ref. Like, can we, and one of the things I think you've got to look at is, can we schedule games on different days, and can we have the best guys?
That's the biggest thing.
But this is what happened over the last couple of seasons. UNH put the kibosh right to us last year by, of course, the NHIA calendar goes a certain way, and the calendar came up, and we were all set. Because I said, we don't have enough, and it's no knock against the officials, we don't have enough good officials for our playoff games, and they're all running at the same time.
And you know what? You deserve
when you go to three a game.
But you deserve it. These kids have invested so hard. The coaches have invested so much. Like, you deserve a guy showing up that has a good attitude and that's skilled at what he does. So I think we've got to look at that.
I agree, but the problem we're having now is we're running out of officials. In the North Country, we are running out of officials.
Hey,
they're going to make us go to...
send them from all over the state. Get your great guys.
You guys can't play on Friday nights anymore. There's not enough. It's going to come to that. And we can't get younger people involved in the game they don't watch. For the life of me, I can't understand it. You can come to Colebrook and make $200 for 3 hours work. Well, they yell at me too much. Well, you know what? You forget about that. And you can do that 4 or 5 times a week. Right. Because we do double headers, girls and boys for the most part up here, and that's what you get. For the life of me, we can't get enough younger people involved in the game to do this. And it's an issue. It really is an issue.
Lauren, I got a question for you. Dave mentioned your championship not too long ago, 2011. Last year you went through a down year. The year before that, you still had some pieces left over. How difficult is it as a coach when you just know night in and night out that you don't have a great chance of winning games? I mean, does it affect your mindset, or are you just the same guy no matter what your team is like?
Yeah, I'm lucky to be married still. Kate, thankful. I lost 9 games in a row. I've never lost 9 things at anything in a row in my life. But I knew we were young. And probably the worst thing that happened to us is we started off 4-0. It's probably the worst thing, because all of a sudden I'm telling them, you guys are turning the ball over 20 times a game. You're shooting whatever from the free throw line. You're shooting low from the. But we're winning. And they're looking at me like, oh, we're just going to keep rolling, coach. That hurt us. But no, I think my wife finally said to me, what do you want out of these kids? Because they can't do what you want them to do. And she was right. You know what? She was right. So I was just proud that I never gave up. And I kept telling them, hey, the door's right there. I'm going to be here every day. And we're going to work hard every day. If you don't like that, then go do something else. And that helped get me through it. And I think in the long run at Somersworth, it's going to help them out. Because, we got everybody back, which is a nice thing to have.
So let me ask you guys this: and this kind of like I'll start with you, Jim, but what do you feel like are the 5 most important decisions you make during a game? I know you prepare more than anybody because you're taking notes as we speak. Probably from what I'm saying, you want to get glom some of that, But what are the biggest decisions you make during a game? Whether it be, I'll let you kind of explain that, whether it be timeouts or just like substitutions or whatnot.
Yeah, during the game, probably seeing what teams we think they're going to be running on offense, if they've changed anything. We scout pretty good, so we should know what they do to our ball screens and and if they change anything, then us coaches are looking at that. I think biggest adjustments we always have is at halftime. Where you can spend a little more time with the kids in the locker room, and the coaches get together and they get a few minutes together to analyze everything, and that's where we make most of the adjustments. During the game, I think my strength is watching the flow of the game.
Yeah.
And I think it's crucial when you use your timeouts, when you don't use them. Sometimes, you might, it look like someone in the stands again saying, why he should be calling a timeout. And it's like, no, I want them to learn how to fix this on their own. It's early in the year. I'm not going to fix everything.
You mean you're not a stubborn son of a gun? You're going to bail them out?
I think it's the halftime adjustments. It's the preparation before the game. There's always surprises.
Yeah.
I try not to call early timeouts, except when it's tournament time.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's I probably use them a lot earlier than some guys do, but I use them very early in tournament time.
Buddy, what are your thoughts?
It's amazing because I'm another one of those stubborn. Because everybody watches. Well, I just got done complaining earlier that our kids don't watch games, but we got all the guys that, why don't you call timeouts? Why don't you call timeouts? It's like, well, this isn't on TV. They don't get the 10, 12 TV timeout. I got 5, and I've always been a proponent early on. They need to figure it out on their own. And as we get closer to the end of the year and the tournaments and stuff, I'll start to use them. But, I've always been a big proponent. You need to battle your way out of what's going on here. Uncle Joe and Mom isn't going to bail you out in the stands, and me calling a timeout might not bail you out either, because everybody thinks, well, you call a timeout, you're going to start the momentum. Well, no, that's not necessarily the case. So I've always been a big proponent of saving my timeouts, and maybe sometimes I've gotten burnt by that. That depends upon your team too. If you got
I was going to say,
you'll probably spend a couple.
There's some
earlier,
teams, they're different.
But I've been lucky that I haven't had a whole lot of weak teams, so we managed to keep that in. And it's the same thing. We scout, so our kids at least know that we're going to do our job. We will tell them everything that they need to know about what's going on. And that to me, and now with games being Main Street all the time, I still go to the games.
Yeah.
I'm in Wilton on a Thursday night. 4 hours from home. I get home at 3 o'clock in the morning. But whatever's whatever. If that's what we need to do, that's what we need to do. I'm smarter now. I send my assistant coaches more to Wilton than those days. But other in-game stuff. Once again, flow of the game. It's all the same. It doesn't matter who you are. Who's having a good game, who's having a bad game. That has as much to do with us now, because we have so-called, I got 5 shooters, and on any night, 2 of them are going to be good, 3 of them are going to be bad. We need to figure out which 2 are going to be good, and which 3 are going to be bad that night, and then you write it, and it's whatever.
Is that part of it, Doc? Like reading these kids in the first 5 minutes, because they're high school kids, and sometimes it's consistency. Obviously, 25-0, you were pretty consistent last year, but is that part of it too? Kind of reading these kids and who's there that night and who maybe isn't?
I would say absolutely. One of the things that we do is at Central is we do a time budget before the game. We try to have our top 8 or 9 guys and before the game starts, we set a amount of minutes that we want to play a certain kid that day based upon practices and based upon scouting. We before the game starts, we've analyzed like what plays we want to run at certain periods of time during the game. But each game has a life of its own, and I think what Buddy and Coach is saying is like you have to be able to adjust to the game. There's foul trouble. There's a million things that are going to happen. Fatigue. And every opponent has different things that they challenge you with.
Yeah.
So like, for us, a little bit bigger school, like we may have a little bit more depth in a Colebrook, and we may have certain kids that can do certain things against an opponent that does something well. All right. But I think the concepts are pretty much the same. Like, I hate calling timeouts. Why? I don't want to rest the other team. I want to run their rear ends up and down the court. I want to prepare our guys to be more physically fit. I want them to experience adversity. Like, I want to teach our guys how to handle adversity. I want our guys to learn how to talk through things on the court.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with these two coaches more. I am a stubborn son of a gun during the year. I don't want to call timeouts at all. I would say in our first 15 games of the year that I would call 0 or 1 timeout in half of them. But I think one of the best timeouts I've ever called is the first minute of a championship game against National North. We're down 5-0, 40 seconds in the game, just to settle our guys down. So I think it does. I think it changes, as you go into the tournament time.
Yeah.
But it's like, what do you want to teach?
Yeah. And that kind of leads me into something else that I want to hear from all four of you about. But Lauren, I'll use you as an example. I sat behind your bench when you guys beat Conan, and at Somersworth the year you won the championship, and they had won I think 3 in a row.
Often, no. I definitely put it in my pocket.
No. And I was there when you and you had a senior laden team, and you had been with them, and you the way you mapped it out for them. But just tell me and this applies, I've seen all four of you in this situation. Situation where everyone's going nuts around you. The Memorial game is a huge example. When you got a 25-0 team and everyone's freaking out because you're about to have a colossal upset, which didn't happen. But start with you, Lauren, but I want to hear all four of you. What is it like in that moment where it's like, you start practice around Thanksgiving, and now it's March, and everyone's going nuts. It's you and those 5 guys in front of you, and what's the message you're trying to give in a situation like that?
I think you fall back on playing as an athlete. You fall back on your coaching experience. That night we played Conan. I remember coming out after pre-game and being disappointed in the crowd.
Yeah.
And then went into overtime. We win, and I walked into the locker room and I said, "Man, the crowd was awful tonight." And my assistant was like, "Coach, those are the most people I've ever seen in this gym ever."
It was packed.
Ever. Yeah. And I don't so as soon as the ball goes up, it's me on the court. I mean, there could be 1 million people there, and I'm focused on what I have to do. And that's what you do. And I think the game you're talking about, we did. We've been through a lot of things together, and we've been in tough situations. And I knew they were going to bail them out. But that team was, my best player. We went in, going into the 4th quarter, we were down. And I said, "Let's go, Bobby. You owe me." He said, "You owe me a pizza party." So I mean, that was his mentality. He was more worried about the pizza party than being down in the 4th quarter to Conan. And he showed it. He came out and hit 3 threes in a row. The next thing you know, it was a different game. And that's just being in that moment and not focusing on anything else.
Doc, what'd you say to your guys when Memorial? Pete was going crazy, and John Kesty's zooming in, and the whole, this Memorial team you beat by 40 is playing out of their mind, and these kids have no fear, and Trayvon Martin's pulling up from 25 feet. What did you say to those guys?
What you say and what you think are 2 different things. I'll tell you what, I'm sitting on the sideline like, this sucks. I mean, you're like, different opponents are going to give you different things. And we're down by 14 points in the third quarter. That hadn't happened to us all year long. I think one of the things that you get from being a coach for a long time is you understand like the body language of some of your kids. So, being down by 14 after a kid hits a 25-foot three, probably a good time to call timeout. Okay? So, like, as they're coming over to you, what do? You're analyzing every step. Where are they?
Yeah.
They get to the bench, and their heads are down. It's like, hey, wait a second here, right? Who's won 23 games in a row, right? Like, you're a salesman all of a sudden, right? Like, they don't need any X's and O's stuff. They need a sales pitch of how they're going to come and how are they going to win this game. And you have 45 seconds to sell. So one of the things we demand all the time, I go like this, freaking get your eyes up here, look at my eyes. And they're going to see fire, and they're going to see belief, and they need a story of how they're going to come back and win the game. And I'll tell you, I believed in our group of kids, and what I was selling to them in that timeout, I had 100% belief in. Now, I may look at stuff in rose-colored glasses. I love these kids, and I believe these kids, and that's what that timeout was for. We didn't talk anything about X's and O's. We talked about the guts. We talked about who we were and how we were going to get back in that game. And you know what? I had great kids, and they looked it right back in my eyes, and they believed it.
And the game I think about with you, Jim, is Oyster River. John, your son John, senior year. And the funny thing is, I couldn't figure out why Oyster River kind of owned you guys, but they kind of owned you guys. Where you had George Segranis and John. You ended up winning the state championship. You guys had to go into Durham. I was there. That was the most intense pre-game I've ever I've been doing this 8 years. That was the most stressful. I mean, he's there with his notes, and Stuart Mitchell, was sitting there with his Oyster River kids. Senior laden Oyster River team, great program. They had police tape around the court to keep people off the court. You guys went in there, you won that game. What was your message that night? I mean, because you hadn't beaten them there, I don't think, very often in the last couple of years.
At that time, we had a bad record at Oyster River. But I think anytime you get in really big games, because during the year, we still emphasize like everything counts. But when you're in a big game, we're excited, coaches, kids, and everything. So pretty much what the coaches are saying is like, it isn't X and O's after a while. I mean, we've done all that.
Yeah.
It's like feeling them out. And most of the time, that night and every time I played in a championship game or a semi-championship at UNH, the kids start looking around a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
And they start feeling that, it's win or go home. So that's when I'm much easier going than I am during a regular season game.
Yeah.
Because I know what they're going through. So I'll try to say something like, hey guys, look around. It doesn't get better than this. This is everything. You are the only two teams playing. Nobody else is playing. You got to remember this. This is what you're going to remember when you're 50. And I think some of that just gets them, that gets them. And we never talk during the year ever about a championship or playing in these kind of games. We just talk about getting better. And then when we get to the Final Four, we go into the gym and we look at the rack, and I go, they'll put the number up there, and it's there for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But enjoy it. And I think every coach that gets there, you enjoy those games.
It's the memory.
It's the memory. Yeah.
It's the memory they'll never forget.
Yeah, and I've learned, and I try to tell our kids is, and I probably didn't get this the first couple of years, is I don't want no regrets. And I tell the kids that I don't want you to regret anything. So don't shortchange us in practice.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to shortchange you. In the last few years when we haven't won, I feel a lot better because I know what else can I do? And so if our kids all do that and we do that, and you leave the gym, it's not as painful.
Absolutely.
As if you left something on the table.
But he used to play, I've heard all about these Growth and Colebrook games back in the day where you were the two biggest schools in the division, the two best, probably could have won 8 or 9 games in Division 1, and you were telling me and a lot of people from Groveton in my long afternoon in Colebrook after the game was people were getting in the gym at 4 o'clock for 7:30 games. How do you handle your kids? I mean, and those instances where you have, unlike these guys, maybe Lauren a little bit, but it's a small town. Like everyone in town is there. The whole town it's a Hoosiers feel. Maybe in the locker room you have to kind of say, hey, they can hear the murmur out there, the buzz. They know people have been in the gym for 2+ hours. How you handle that with your teams?
Well, most of the time, especially once these games go, there was a 5 or 6 year span where it was really, and it's still good now, but not.
Yeah. I enjoyed it.
I would be more kind of relaxed.
Yeah.
Before that, because they all know, most of the time when there's a big game, when you have your game face on at practice 2 days before, and we need to buzz it going and get it going, And I would kind of try to take the opposite approach there, and that reminds me, the last year we played each other in the finals, which was my sons and Mark's son's senior year, and we're best friends, and they were best friends, and
Mark Collins drove to,
right? The wives are all crying before the game starts. It was huge, and they jumped us like 11-0, and by halftime it was just back and forth the whole game, and it was a big game. And at one time during the fourth quarter, which is totally unlike me, I call a timeout, and the kids are all coming over. They had just run off a string on it. And I said, "Hey, isn't this fun?" And they're all looking at me. What are you nuts? I said, "We're having fun out here, and it's the best thing going. Let's just go out. We'll go out and score a point. You can't ask for anything better than this. The gym's packed. Everybody's sweating. We're all having a good time. Go out and do it." I know they're all looking, but I think it relaxed them at that point, and they got back in the game. Now, I've only done that one time. I've never really done it again. But it was like, at that moment, I think that was what had to happen, And whether it was right or wrong, it turned out to be right, even though we ended up losing. But at that point, it stopped whatever was going on.
Yeah.
It's once again, we're all in agreement. You need to have a feel for what's going on.
Yeah.
And you try to do the thing, and everybody has their own ways of doing things, positive, negative. I'm so-called, I tell our kids before the year starts, look, I'm a yeller, I'm going to yell. I'm going to tell you I'm not, but then I'm going to anyways, because that's what I do. I try not to. I try to sit there, John would think, but I'll last like about 10 seconds, and then that's it. But you need to listen to what we're talking about, because that's how I do it. I'm sorry. You need to listen to what we're talking about, not how we're delivering the message. And if you listen to that, you're going to be fine. If not, well, then I guess you better deal with it, because I'm not going anywhere. So you're going to have to say so.
I got a question, and I'm going to direct it to you, Jim. With the technology of today and the kids utilizing it, and social media and things like that, how much control do you try and take over that situation before the season even starts? At the end of this past season, there was a tweet directed at your community, your school, your team, and ended up in the taking away of an all-state selection by the kid who sent it out. He is unable to play in the Twin State basketball game. Do you use that with your team and say, hey, remember this situation that happened last year? No tweeting, or you got to control yourselves. How difficult is it? Because kids will just fire stuff out there, hit send, and it's out there, and you can't take it back. And unfortunately, the kid that did it learned the hard way that you can't take it back, even though he did technically take it back and apologize. But it's a big problem, and I think it's something that you guys as coaches have to, explain to your children and your players as well.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate thing this year. Our guys did the right thing. We didn't, I think in some of the publications they accused us and our kids of doing a few of the things too, and it's totally inaccurate. We never did any. The kids didn't do any of that back, but what you're saying, I don't know anything about technology much.
You're not on Twitter?
No, he doesn't know. No, but I will say this: I've talked to
Jim, ignorance is bliss.
I've talked to a couple other guys, and we will say that there's none of that this year. Just because why? We have nothing to gain from it, and I think our guys will be fine with that. And just just not be involved in it at all is the only answer to that.
They have cell phones in Colebrook, buddy? I mean, do you have
We do now, because we were talking about
They
that
got one
before.
kid on Twitter. Yeah, Cedric
Oh,
McKinnon.
we don't know about Twitter. Yeah, Cedric is on Twitter. We talked about that the other day. I still haven't talked to him about that.
God, so
When he comes back. Cedric, I will, because I know he'll be watching this at some point. We have, and his with small schools sometimes have a little bit. We do have rules in our contract about what they can and can't say on whatever it is, because I'm not much of a tech person either. But you know, if you're going to criticize a teammate, a coach, an official, or someone from the other team, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you some time. You know what? I can't get on there and say, "You guys stunk tonight." You know what? And you need to find a new sport to play.
Yeah.
You know, and so you need to deal with it in the proper way too. You might think it, and that's fine. But you know what? You need to express that in another way. You know, because we're all together here, and you know, you gotta. If you're going to do that, something not good is going to happen.
Pete and I saw the really I don't want to ask you when I get done with this about your team, but Pete and I saw the positive side of it when Timberlane beat Keene, and it was awesome that you can bring that right over. Thank you. I can do this mid-riff. That was a great moment because kids, I know Richie Ruffin's a kid I remember. Dawson Dixon was another one who just said, "This is fabulous, great job by Timberlane. They've been working their butts off," and it was really terrific. I mean, really positive. There's always going to be one or two knuckleheads who are going to rag on Keene, and they just missed the boat. And I talked about that in our radio show. But there's also some really positive stuff, and I see a lot of kids say after games. I've seen your kids do it. In
Kids
particular,
are generally really good.
really pretty good.
Like the public likes to pick up on the negative, but kids is
I remember, I think you guys beat South, and one of the South kids was like, "Great job tonight" to Brent Hansen. He's like, "Great job, you guys played great, you guys made great." Really, I'd say 90% of the time it's
Right.
really, really good. You know, do you see it, Lauren? Do you talk about it with your kids at all, or?
We talk to it, but it's part of it's what it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's part of social media and the technology and all. I mean, so we don't ban it. I mean,
Yeah.
we talk about it. We talk about making good decisions. You know, just like you would after a game. You know, and working in schools, it's a nightmare. I mean, it's a nightmare with kids saying things back and forth to each other all the time, and it's something that I think we have to teach our children and our kids about, and to be smart about it.
Yeah. What do you think, Doc?
I was telling Jim before, we coach 13 to 14 kids that are very imperfect. They are led by 3 or 4 adults that are very imperfect. Okay? So, I think we talk a lot about making good choices. And I'll tell you, one of the things that you get out of high school athletics is we have to teach some of these children how to communicate, how to respect an opponent, how to give an opponent credit, to be a little humble. And I think it goes into the message. And I think as we get older, I don't think that the message changes. It's just the ways that they can go wrong are more. You know, so it's just another thing you got to take care of.
Yeah.
You know?
And one thing I see that I never saw before, and Pete and I have talked about it, is sometimes after losses and playoffs, the kid's season ends, they'll just say, "Well, AAU starts in 4 days," and that kind of leads me into my next thing. Buddy's about to flip out. But back when I was in high school a million years ago, I tried out with, I had, much like probably you guys did, I had to try out to make a team. Doc played in college, it's like you had to, cattle call and make it. Now, back in the day when I was at Guilford, we probably had 3 out of 14 kids on the team playing AAU, so my coach didn't have that much trouble with it. Now, we might have 6 or 7 kids. I'm sure Jim has 8 or 9 kids playing AAU. And there's good AAU programs and there's bad, and I'm not totally against it. I'm not a huge fan, but my question to all 4 of you, and I'll just start with Buddy just to kind of go around, because you probably had the fewest, but I want to go around. How is AAU, because you've coached for a long time, changed how you coach or how you're able to coach in the last 8 to 10 years? Because I feel like it's been a humongous change in the last 5 to 8 years.
Well, it's up north, it hasn't. and we're probably the only ones.
Yeah.
Because everything's too far away, and we try to do some things. Once again, Mark and I we did it with our kids in the elementary, 6th grade through the 8th grade, and then they put a rule in to say that we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you want your kids playing with somebody else that doesn't know anything, and plus we want them to play 3 sports. You know, and in our schools, they have to play 3 sports.
Yeah.
And we keep trying to push that out. You're an athlete. You want your baseball team to survive. You better damn well play soccer, because if you don't, you know what? You might not have either one in 5 years. So we encourage our kids to play 3 sports. So the AAU issue, we're just too far away. Technology hasn't solved that yet. When you can start playing AAU over your phones, I guess then we'll be all set, because we do have cell service now. But other than that, we're all set. But
Jim, you got a lot of kids playing that Spartan program,
I
and
really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we're down to 3
No.
kids in our whole program. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, if kids want to play, I mean, it's not my job to tell them who to. You know, I wish they would ask me my advice sometime, because I'd rather have them play for a great program. If you're going to put in the time, then go play for someone that's going to get you better.
Right.
I mean, that's what we do all year. I mean, I always say that. We got 4 or 5 months with these kids. If you're not better when you leave, boy, I'm not doing a very good job.
Right.
And so sometimes the kids come back from AAU, and it is like starting over again. You know, the principles that we teach, you know, the defensive schemes are over. Offensively, they're back to, you know, rec basketball, I call it. And but there's some wonderful AAU programs too. So I'm not, you know, that's where I coached for a long time. So I mean, I just think it's the program.
it's the program. Yeah. Doc, what do you think?
To answer your question, I haven't changed how I coach one bit.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what we need to do is adjust the expectation levels of the players that we have. Hey, I'm in total agreement with Jim. We're really blessed. Some of our kids play with Miguel Gonzalez. And Miguel's one of the guys that he doesn't treat these kids as an income stream, charge them $2,000 for a summer, and look at them and say, you're going to get a scholarship. Okay? He's one of the good ones that says, like, he tells the kids the truth. And I think that's what makes us 4 guys
He teaches.
pretty good. Well, like, you've got to tell the truth, man. Like, if you want a kid to get better, he needs to really know what's going on. If you blow smoke to him, and ultimately you're going to lose credibility if you don't tell the truth.
Yeah.
All right? So Jim is right. My fear is there was not a lot of great ones out there, and we have a lot of people that want to manipulate our kids to grab as much money out of our kids as possible.
Yeah.
All right. So I stay completely out of it. I like our kids playing games. Like, I think any work they can get, any skill they can develop. I just hate that they go to an AAU program and some guy says, well, we're going to play offense and they're going to teach you X's and O's, you cut here, and like let's develop players.
Yeah.
And a lot of AAU guys, you know, no disrespect, but they don't have the capacity that the guys at this table have. Right? So hey, our job's still the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Lauren, what do you think? Have you? I know some of your kids, your younger guys, are in the BST program, which has really good reputation of teaching. Like, you know, they're kind of different from AU. But what are your thoughts?
You know, same as everybody said. I think the scary part is putting some false thoughts in some kids' head, and we have some kids right now that they're being told, and then I say, you know, you'll be lucky to play, you know, at a junior college. I mean, and you're going to have to be a very good player to play at junior college, and it ruins it. You know, those younger kids who, it's pretty normal, they're bigger, stronger than everybody, and then everybody catches up and goes past them. And I see that happening a little more often because everybody's telling them how great they are. And then they come in the gym and they dribble the ball behind the back and they go that way instead of towards the basket. And I say, you'll never be able to do that at any level, including our level. And then I'm crazy, I don't know what I'm talking about. And then they can go somewhere else because, like you guys, I always say the same thing.
We're cutting one of those kids this year.
Yeah, well, go play for one of those other kids. Play for another coach in town. You know, I mean, go move, go somewhere else.
The one thing that I would add we talked about this before out there, is that the one disadvantage that we have, obviously, is that our kids do not play enough basketball.
Yeah.
You know, and our kids 10 years ago, even without AAU, played 10 times more basketball than our kids play today. They just, so
I'd say we all agree with that.
Yeah.
Even from the big schools, they don't play enough.
We do not play enough basketball, so we are constantly fighting game situations. And as I said, getting from point A to point B and how to get there and doing all that they can figure out if they're just playing pickup, but they don't do that anymore.
It feels like, and tell me if I'm wrong, it feels like I used to drive around, and I bet you all four of you did this. I used to drive around with my buddy with a basketball in the car. And we used to drive to Laconia, to Meredith, to Guilford, and to find a court. And if we found two older guys playing, we played 2-on-2. And it doesn't feel like I drive. My buddy tells me all the time. He says in the preseason, he goes, "I drive by the courts and there's nobody there." And I wonder if these kids are so used to structured AAU.
He's a rich guy. I had to ride my bicycle from Gostown to Manchester.
It was an Aries K, all right. So listen, I wasn't cruising in style, but I mean, does it
Just
feel that way?
along the same lines, okay? As a 16-year-old kid growing up in Gostown, I'd ride a bicycle to Manchester. We get to Ash Street School. You get there as early as possible, play 1-on-1, 2-on-2 when guys came, 3-on-3, and then when it was 5-on-5, like if you waited long enough, you might have to wait a half an hour if you lost to get back in the game.
Yeah.
So you got there early, okay, and you got every aspect of the game, okay. If you don't set it up for kids now, they don't come.
Yeah, that's what I feel like.
And the element of toughness, like, hey, when I'm going on a bicycle and I'm playing against a 25-year-old guy getting off a garbage truck, you're not going to say one word if you get fouled. You're not going to say one word.
He's not letting you lay it in either.
You're not going to one word if you don't get picked. You sit there, you shut your mouth, and you learn how to play. And I'll tell you, I think, personally, that element of toughness, like you can't get that anymore because kids don't take it. I don't know what it is.
And you learn how to play. That's the difference. It's like when we went to the playground, no matter what you were, 15, 16, 14, 13, the guys that were there were 18, 20, 22,
Right.
and they knew how to play. So you just instinctively, like we talked about earlier, knew how to come off a screen. You know how to, you know. I always say to this day, we'll get some older guys come in our gym and play our guys. And I'll say, do you hear the communication? Like five guys that never haven't seen each other for 6 months, right? But what do? They talk on offense, they talk on defense, screening away action, you know. And I guess that's gone.
When you were 15 years old, did you dare take a shot?
Oh, no.
6 to 6 when the game's at 7?
Your
ass wouldn't get in the game for the next 2 hours if you did.
When they told you to shoot.
Exactly.
That was when you shot. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You sound the same way, right, Lauren? I mean, same kind of
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, I was lucky we hopped on a subway, so I didn't have to drive, I didn't have to take a bus.
All right, so I'm the rich guy in the room. I drove an Aries K.
I'd walk down the street and hop on the subway, but yeah, I mean,
Uphill both ways.
no, but it's I have this conversation. It's
Doing defensive slides.
playing that stuff is always, takes care of race. I go to all parts of the city.
Yeah.
I go to all parts of Boston, and I'd show up and people would be saying things. And then once you start hitting shots, once you start going by people, nobody cared who you were,
What age
what
you
you
were.
did.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you could hit shots, if you could play some defense, you could play. And and we would. If you lost, you were done for the night. So you'd hop on a train and you'd find, all right, well, let's go try, the one down at, Gooch Park or this where we'd go wherever. But yeah, I think there's too many distractions. It's interesting. Dana Barros was at camp today, and 5'9", played for 12 years in the NBA, and he said to the kids,
Yeah, he was all right.
I played. I dribbled the ball during commercials on the TV, but he said I didn't have cable, I didn't have internet, I didn't have anything. I didn't have a phone. So he said, you're right, I had nothing to do but play, but he said I knew that was my only way out, was to do that. And understanding their role, I think I think you learn there in that part.
Absolutely.
When you're a younger kid, all right, I got to feed this guy because he's hot, and not be like I have to get my 4 shots out or whatever. And I think there's a lot of things that we lose in translation.
Unfortunately, I think we have lost our kids, we have raised kids, and part of it's our generation, or whatever. Our kids, if you told them to go play pickup, they wouldn't know how to do it. You don't see that. You see kids now, rec teams. They go to practice. Their parents are all there. They're looking at their parents all the time. When I was in the 4th grade, if my parents showed up at a practice, I'd think, get out of here. Now they're lost at and it's how we rate. They don't know how. I'm not saying our kids are bad kids because they won't go play pickup. They don't know. They really don't know how to do it.
Well, how about
everything's organized for them. If it's not organized, how
That's what all the best players, the best team.
But I mean, like, I don't know about you guys, but what about your 8th, 9th, 10th guys? Nobody wants to be that role anymore.
No, you're done.
Right? If I don't have an immediate result, like, I'm not playing. I'm not going to go through it. So I don't know about you guys, but like, we're using JV guys to be like the 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
Your kids are the future.
Kids won't even try out if they know they're going to be the 9th or 10th guy.
Like we're
Because
2,400
so
kids.
in front of me,
I don't think I've cut a kid in 3 or 4 years.
Is that? Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Because they know. Well, when you play 40 or 45 games in the off season, you have the open gyms. Like, they all know where they are. It's not brain surgery,
Right.
So it's interesting, like what you're saying. I don't know if kids aren't committed. They don't want to be a part of it as much as they used to.
No, I mean, it's true. And we lose, they drop off. I always say, give me 2 years. You know what? Freshman, sophomore, give me those 2 years. If you decide as a junior, I'm not pushing you that way because you're selling yourself short. Because I've seen kids go along in 1 year, but you got to at least give us 2. Don't decide as a freshman, oh, these guys are sophomores, are already ahead of me. They're going to stay ahead of me, because that doesn't turn out to be the case. But they get that in their mind that that's what it is. And sometimes we lose some of those kids now because they don't want to sit on them. And as much as you try to tell them how much important it is to be on a team and what your job is, and how they don't want to hear that anymore. It's, if I'm not playing, or mom and dad, if they're not playing, I'm not going to watch you, and I'm not carting you around. Get done, go ski, go do something, and that's the unfortunate thing, but that's what ends up happening now. It's instant gratification, and we don't have that. Yes.
Let me ask you guys about dealing with parents, because I know that's probably a difficult thing at times. Some parents, I'm sure, are easy to deal with, and they really don't get in your face too much.
If you find a parent that's easy to deal with, let me know who they are.
Is that one of the hardest parts of being a coach, is dealing with the parents? In some cases?
I've been lucky. I've got a great athletic director that I played high school basketball with. So he's got your back all the time, and the parents know that. So that's a big part of it. But the other part is, like, I'm not rude to the parents, but I just let them know that I want to deal with their sons, and I want their sons to be responsible. So from day one, when we have our meeting with even the freshman parents, we say, I don't want a phone call or text from you or an email. I want to just deal with your sons, and it's teaching him. A parent will, text me and say he's not going to make practice today. That's not the way we handle it. So some parents take it the wrong way, but eventually they get it, and I don't have much to do with them. Which sometimes it's kind of sad, because they're all good people. Most of them are good people, and I hear once in a while someone say so and so's mad. It's like, that's okay, but I really don't have much to do with them, and I think the kids in the end, like I was telling Doc earlier, with freshman, sophomore year, they're a little bit not sure of us, of our whole staff, because we're all serious. We all take this very serious. And by the junior and senior year, though, they really love it. And you see it when the kids come back, and it makes them grow up. They should be responsible for themselves. Their mother should be. The kid said one day that going to a varsity basketball game, my mom didn't pack my sneakers. You didn't just say that, right? So those are the things that we're trying to do away with, and just deal with the kid, the athlete.
Lauren, you have that too, right? The kid needs to tell you, right?
Right. Yeah, I do not talk to. I tell parents I don't do well, Johnny doesn't know I'm calling. I don't want him. I don't do that. I tell them right out straight. You know, and I will never meet with you unless I've talked to your kid already. So if your kid has already come to me and we're not able to reach an agreement or whatever, that's fine. But my door is always open to my kids. So my kids do take advantage of that. And sometimes you come around the corner and you want to get out of there, and there's a kid sitting there, you're going to give that kid the time, because that's how you avoid having all those issues. And also, though, but reading those kids. I think that's something that some people don't know how to do very well, is if you see a kid upset, you see a kid mad, pull him aside and say, what's going on? And then, you know, the last thing is I always tell the kids, I'm going to be really honest in our conversation. So like my dad's always said to me, don't ask a question you don't want an answer to. So if you really want me to tell you why you're not playing, then are you ready for it? Because I'm really honest. And I'll say, this is why you're not playing. And I think that avoids a lot of problems.
Doc, you do something that I think is really unique, which I think is great, where you kind of have times at your house or wherever where the kids are in a circle and you let them eat. You kind of go around. We did this in my fraternity, and it lasted 9 hours every time we did it. But you do this with your kids, where you let them kind of like voice what they want to say, and
We're pretty unique. And I'm sure I stole it from somebody because I'm not smart enough to come up with it myself. But what we do is we tell our assistant coaches that nobody's stopping practice. We're on the court for 2 hours. We're going to run up and down, and we're going to get ourselves physically fit. We're going to get as many repetitions in 2 hours as humanly possible. We will meet a little bit before practice, but we are going to meet as a group after practice, and we get in a circle. And what we do is we all talk. We go in different orders, but like we all talk about the practice and where we're at. And so like, I think what we gain from that is everybody's communicating what they think, what they feel, what we're going to do. Certain guys can get singled out. Coaches can get singled out. Like, we address the issues every single day. And I think that allows our players to feel accountable. And I agree with the coaches. Like, we communicate as thoroughly with our players as humanly possible. They all know exactly what they're doing, what they need to get better at, what allows them to play more. So I think when you communicate that, like, there's not a disconnect of why aren't I doing something?
Less surprises.
Like if some coach thinks that they can do it good enough that you're not going to have problems with any parent, you're delusional. Okay? But like, I think at the end of the day, if you feel that you've communicated fully to the players, like, I think you've got to feel good about that. Like, as an adult, our responsibility is to lay a path out for these kids. If they want to choose to take it, great. If they choose not to take it, well, like, ultimately your minutes are going to get cut because, like, you're making those choices. So do what you're going to do. But like, I think for us, having those meetings after practice, talking about things, and people address it. It's amazing some of the things that have happened in these circles. And
how long does it last?
It's very different. It can go 5 minutes one day. I'm usually about 3 or 4 minutes. But like, we'll start with players, go to assistant coach, go to players. And your young kids, it takes a while for them to communicate and be honest. So like, it takes a while for them to gain trust. But your senior leaders that like have invested quite a bit in it, like, they're not going to let certain kids not get 100% effort.
So they call on them.
Oh, absolutely. And it minimizes, like, hey, how sick are guys to listen to us? So when it comes from a teammate, that's a great tool.
Guys, I just want to say thanks for coming out here and meeting on a hot July afternoon here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Concord. It was a lot of fun just kind of sitting here and listening to you guys talk with each other, to us, about the game that we all love, basketball. So I look forward to seeing you guys, when the start of the season comes. I know some of you guys are involved with our preseason basketball jamboree. Can't wait till that, December 6th? Is that the date? We got the matchup.
We haven't announced announced it yet, but yeah,
Little tease
might have a
for ya.
little Portsmouth Central game, so we'll see how that goes.
I'll beg Jim to take it easy on us.
Can't sleep.
Please, Jim.
I can't sleep now.
But thank you to all four of you, four of our favorite coaches, and it's been an absolute pleasure listening to you guys. Like I said, the stuff off camera has been as good as on camera, and I've had an absolute blast listening to you guys, and it's an absolute joy. So thank you, all four of you,
Yeah,
for
thanks for
doing
having
this.
us.
It's an honor to be
Thank
here.
you. It was good.
Thank you guys for having us.
Very good.